Welcome to the deep dive. Today we're heading to a really special spot, Interstate State Park in Taylor Falls, Minnesota.
Absolutely. And it's not just, a scenic place. It's packed with geological history, and we're really going to zoom in on one feature today, those amazing potholes.
Right. And if you're listening and thinking about maybe an outdoor trip that's more than just a walk in the woods,
Hmm.
something with real history baked in, this is definitely for you. Interstate is, well, it's unique. Minnesota's second oldest state park.
And get this, the first park in the whole U.S. to actually be in two states, Minnesota and Wisconsin.
With the St. Croix River running right down the middle as the border. It's pretty cool.
Yeah, it really is. So if you're looking to get outside, see some, frankly, stunning scenery, and maybe unravel some planetary puzzles.
You've come to the right place.
Yeah.
So, our mission for this deep dive.
It's pretty straightforward. We want to give you a really good sense of these potholes, how they got there, the human history tied to this spot, and basically why you should check them out.
Okay, let's get into the geology first. The river, the St. Croix, it flows through this really dramatic kind of narrow, rocky gorge. They call it the Dalles. What's the story there?
Well, the rock itself is key. You have to picture this. 1.1 billion years ago. It's almost mind-bogglingly old, right? This is Middle Proterozoic basalt.
Okay, basalt, like old lava flows.
Exactly. Part of what geologists call the Chingwatana volcanic group. Huge amounts of volcanic activity laid down this rock. And crucially, this basalt is way, way harder than the sedimentary rocks nearby.
Ah, so the river hit this tough stuff and had to really work to cut through it. That's why it's a gorge.
Precisely. It forced the river into that narrow, deep channel. And Dalles, you asked about the name.
Yeah.
It's French. It basically means a narrow river gorge with rocky sides or sometimes flagstones or slabs of rock. It describes the place perfectly.
And the cliffs themselves, these huge basalt walls.
They formed from 10 distinct, really thick lava flows. Then, over enormous stretches of time, the force of the water exploited weaknesses, creating vertical fractures.
Making the cliffs we see today.
Yeah.
Okay, but then the Ice Age happened. That must have changed things dramatically.
Oh, completely. About 10,000 years ago, you didn't just have the St. Croix. You had the Glacial River St. Croix, fed by the enormous glacial Lake Duluth.
So way bigger.
Unimaginably bigger. Think magnitudes larger. This massive flow had incredible power. It literally broke up, scoured, and carried away chunks of that hard basalt.
That's what carved the deep valley and the 100-foot cliffs we see now.
That's the main sculpture, yes. And you can actually see the layers on the Minnesota side, those 10 lava flows, each one over 10 feet thick. It's quite something.
Wow. And the French explorers, they saw these slab-like rocks and called it Dell.
That's the story. It clearly made an impression, these unique geological shapes.
Like a billion-year-old lava.
Yeah.
Ice Age megafloods carving a gorge.
Yeah.
Now, the potholes. The main event. I saw someone mention potholes up on Lake Superior, too. Are these the same kind of thing?
That's a good question, because you do see rock depressions elsewhere. But the ones at Interstate, they're really tied to that glacial river's power. Imagine the turbulent water full of swirling sand, pebbles, even boulders.
Like sandpaper.
Mhm.
Or maybe more like a drill.
Exactly like a drill. That swirling debris trapped in eddies or depressions just ground away at the bedrock over, well, a very long time. It drilled down into the basalt, creating these smooth, cylindrical holes.
So maybe similar look to some on Superior. But the force here was that massive meltwater river, not just waves.
Primarily, yes. The glacial river was the dominant force creating these specific potholes. Nature's power drill, essentially.
Incredible. Now, it's not just rocks, though. People have been here a long time, too, haven't they?
Oh, absolutely. The St. Croix was a vital corridor for Native Americans for thousands of years. Transportation, resources. We find evidence, like prehistoric tools, right in the park.
And Europeans followed.
Yeah, the first one we know of who came through was Daniel Graysalon, Sieur de Lut. Sound familiar?
Like Duluth, Minnesota?
The very same. He passed through in 1680. After that, it became a major route for fur traders. There was even a French fort near the Minnesota campground for a while in the early 1700s.
A fort, wow.
Yeah.
And then later on, logging became big.
Huge. By the late 1880s, this was logging country. There was actually a famous log jam in 1886, so massive it became a tourist attraction. People came just to see it.
Huh. A log jam drawing tourists. Different times.
Definitely. And all this history, the unique nature, it eventually led to protection.
The park itself.
Right. Minnesota created the State Park of the Dalles of St. Croix way back in 1895. one of the state's oldest, which shows some real foresight.
And there was work done later, during the Depression.
Yeah, the WPA and the CCC, the Works Projects Administration and Civilian Conservation Corps, they were active here in the 1930s. They built structures like in glacial gardens and the campground.
Using local material.
Yes, using that same local basalt, creating this wonderful rustic style. Those buildings are actually on the National Register of Historic Places now. They're part of the park's story.
It's interesting, though, this split between Minnesota and Wisconsin. How does that work for visitors?
It's practical to know, yeah. They are two separate state parks, separate entrance fees, separate rules.
Well, you can walk between them.
Easily. Just stroll across the U.S. Route 8 bridge. Both sides have visitor centers, too, with displays and information.
Okay, sold. I want to see these potholes. If I go to the Minnesota side, what's the experience like?
Minnesota's side has the Pothole Trail, but it's maybe less of a defined trail and more like an area to explore. You wander over the rock surfaces, down near the cliffs.
How much walking are we talking?
It's not too strenuous, maybe half a mile total, with about a 100-foot elevation change, kind of up and down the rocks. Some maps show it in lime green.
Sounds like you get right into the geology.
Yeah.
Any highlights there?
Oh, the views of the river are just fantastic, really dramatic. And there's a little challenge. See if you can find the small, sort of hidden natural arch. It's a fun discovery.
Secret arch. Nice. Okay, what about Wisconsin? Is it similar?
Wisconsin has a more formal trail, the Pothole Loop Trail. It's clearly marked, easy walking, about 0.4 miles, also with around 100 feet of elevation gain. And it has its own parking lot, which is convenient.
So both sides offer pothole views. Is there a difference? Are the potholes bigger on one side?
Generally, yeah. While both are impressive, Minnesota is often cited as having some of the really big, deep ones, the giants, you could say.
Good tip. If you want the biggest ones, maybe start in Minnesota. But
Yes.
both sound scenic.
Definitely. Both trails give you stretches right along the river, fantastic views looking across that state line running down the water.
And if I'm on the Wisconsin side and want a longer hike,
Easy to do. You can link the Pothole Loop with trails around Summit Rock through Echo Canyon, the River Bluff Trail. You can definitely make a good few miles of it over there.
sounds like plenty to do besides just pothole gazing.
For sure. There's loads of hiking. Minnesota has over 4 miles of trails, Wisconsin over 12. Wisconsin even has a sandy beach on Lake of the Dalles.
Oh, each two.
Yep. Plus canoe and kayak rentals, boat launches, and even rock climbing, though that's only in permitted areas, of course.
Oh, you could spend a whole weekend there easily.
Yeah.
Any advice for climbers?
Just the usual, check the park's info kiosks first. Sometimes areas are closed for nesting birds or other reasons, so always check current conditions and rules.
Okay, great. So let's wrap this up. What's the main takeaway from our deep dive into Interstate's potholes?
I think it's really about witnessing geological time made visible. You have this incredibly ancient rock shaped by this immense force of glacial meltwater into these really unique and fascinating features. It's history you can touch.
Yeah, it sounds perfect for anyone who's curious, who likes to explore and learn while being outdoors in a beautiful setting.
Exactly. The potholes are pretty accessible, and the whole St. Croix Dalles area is just gorgeous.
Standing there, looking at a hole drilled by water and grit into billion-year-old rock,
Yeah.
it really makes you think about time, doesn't it? And how solid ground isn't so permanent.
It really does, which leads to maybe a final thought for you listening out there. When you see these potholes, think about what other stories the land holds. What other deep histories are hidden, maybe right under our feet, just waiting to be read?
That's a great question to ponder. We definitely encourage everyone listening, go visit Interstate State Park, see the potholes, explore the history, enjoy the river, and, let us know what you discover.
Absolutely. Thanks for joining us for this deep dive.